breakthrough.
Good evening and welcome to Sporlitics, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna. Where is he? The Nigerian moderate Republican. Keith, the constitutional conservative. He'll be on soon. Stephen, the independent thinker. And my cousin Todd, who is missing in action. Kurt Busch is stepping away from full-time NASCAR Cup competition as Bubba Wallace shoves Kyle Larson after a crash in Las Vegas. Stephen is here to talk about it. China is sticking to its zero COVID policy. Xi Jinping doubled down on the idea that the measures have saved lives, the measures that China took, and vowed to continue the stringent set of policies. Tonight, first day NBA season starts. Aguna will talk about what that means for the Golden State Warriors. How much will the Sandy Hook parents actually get from Alex Jones? Week 6 in the NFL, and Aguna has something for y'all. Well, I do too. Week 6 in the NFL, and the Philadelphia Eagles are still not getting their due, since they are the only team as of today that are undefeated in the entire league. We'll talk about the takeaways from the January 6th hearing, the last one that took place last week, and the Phillies. You see my red lipstick, my Philly shirt? The Phillies advanced to the first National League Championship Series since 2010 tonight in San Diego against the Padres after eliminating the sorry Braves. You hear that, Nas? Eliminating the sorry Braves. CNN reports a record turnout and long lines marked the first day of early voting in Georgia. As the political mood tilts in Republicans' favor with the economy and inflation, we are 3 weeks from midterms. Now, your former President Trump, Stephen and Keith, is being deposed tomorrow in a case brought by E. Jean Carroll, who accused him of raping her in the 1990s, and more if we can fit it in. First up, Stephen, what is going on with NASCAR? First, talk about Kyle Busch stepping away, and then talk about your favorite friend, Bubba Wallace. Oh, sorry. Wait, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. We couldn't hear you. Go ahead. We couldn't hear you. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Kurt Busch is retiring. He had a really bad accident, and he hasn't been racing for months, and he decided to retire. Same thing happened with Dale Earnhardt Jr. But this is what could happen because it's better. They have a lot of money. They're older. He's a little bit older. He never was really elite, but he was a pretty good driver at some tracks. But his little brother, Kyle Busch, is one of my favorite drivers. He's elite, and I'm glad he's not going to retire. But these injuries are very impactful. Just like when Andrew Luck got hurt and he decided he wasn't going to do it anymore. I can understand these guys. They have enough money. They want to live the rest of their lives awake, I can understand that. That's a good thing, and I'm glad for him. And Bubba Wallace is in his car, the 45. He was in the 23. It's the same group that's owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan and a few other billionaires. And so
he embarrasses so Bubba Wallace embarrasses those billionaires by pushing Kyle Larson.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace does what Bubba does. Bubba has issues. We've known this for years. He has issues. He has anger issues, and he goes off. If he could control that, then he can get the big backing. He can get the big money. But something like this is really not cool for NASCAR. It's a black eye for his team. It's a black eye for him. It's not cool because Kyle Larson didn't do anything wrong. And then he retaliated because he thought he did. And he went down the track and wrecked Kyle Larson. But Kyle Larson's not in the he's not in the championship right now. He can't win it. He's not in the playoffs. But Christopher Bell is number 20, and he got caught up in the melee that was caused by the petulant child that is Bubba Wallace and took him out. So that's really bad. I don't know what's going to happen to him because he is their golden child, and they want to push him up ahead of people, and that's what they've been doing. They may not do anything to him, but he did apologize, and he was wrong. And he went over there after the wreck that he took Kyle Larson out. Kyle Larson is still trying to recuperate from the wreck. He's leaning up against his car, and Bubba comes over there and wants to fight like he's 14 years old, and pushing and screaming and shaking his hands and pushing him again and Kyle Larson is walking away from him because he's a little guy. And he's like, I don't want any problem with you. Get away from me. And he keeps doing it. So I think there's 3 more races left. Right. Bubba's irrelevant. Just don't let him race anymore this year. Put somebody else in that's not going to be a thug punk. And then maybe he'll learn his lesson for next year because he does have talent. And if he can learn a lesson from that, that would be a good thing. You don't do that. You don't take it. This is the main thing. These guys are in the playoffs. They're in contention to win it all. So with these other guys who are not in the playoffs, you don't do anything to mess these guys up. And that's the golden rule since they've been doing racing like this. You don't mess with the guys that are in the playoffs. If you do, then the punishment that comes to him is real. They really should sit him down for the rest of the year. That's what they should do. And I'm saying they're not going to do it because it's not politically correct.
All right. So let's look at this. This is screenshot of Bubba Wallace issues apology after Las Vegas crash. It's NASCAR.com. You see it right here. Can you see that? I want to apologize for my actions on Sunday.
Following me on track.
Incident. He didn't say he shoved them.
Yeah.
And the number 5 car. Go ahead.
My behavior does not align with the core values that shared by the 23 team racing and its partners who take crucial. It's really hard to read, but he had to do this. They told him, "Are you stupid, Bubba?" Everybody around him said, "Bubba, are you just stupid? You don't do this. You made us look stupid for backing you." So it's really bad for Bubba right now, and just the best thing to do is just take him out of racing. There's only 3 races left: Homestead, Martinsville, and I don't know the last one, but there's just 3 races left. Take him out. He can't win anything anyway. Just let him sit and stew and bring the integrity back to racing because you do not do this. These are rules you do not break in racing. You just don't do it.
Well, you know what I think is really interesting is all these athletes are gonna start apologizing. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry for the incident." He didn't say, he shoved them, which he did, but he doesn't say he shoved them. "I'm sorry for the incident." I mean, what does that mean? Saying I'm sorry, I mean, I'm not sure what that does. What's the point of that?
Yeah, I get it. I guess there's some decorum that's needed in racing. But I know just last week, though, Stephen was complaining about racing not being exciting enough and all this other stuff. So I guess this is just one of those laundry list of issues that you're having with NASCAR. I don't know where you're going to go if you don't go to NASCAR. Maybe you're going to go to curling or something. But, hey, okay, it happened. The emotions get the best of them. I'm sorry if it offended all the traditions and the gold standards of NASCAR. You want to call him all kind of names and put him all in these different boxes and stuff. Man, get over it. Come on. It's a competitive sport, so you get emotional. All right. He said he was sorry. Now leave him alone. Now, if other athletes who have done the similar things who said they were sorry, Stephen, you've been like, yeah.
Let's talk about Draymond Green. He said he was sorry after he socked him.
Yeah, but I guess this is along the same lines, right? We can't, because in the age of social media where you have brands, you have all kind of cameras everywhere, you get into these emotional you lose your emotions and things get the best of you, and it's for the whole world to see, and people want to, you know, punish you severely for mistakes. And these people are human. Things happen. So again, I'm not a NASCAR fan. It's not going to do me any never mind either way. But you're attacking Bubba Wallace as if he's using the word thug. Really? Come on now. We can come up with better names than that.
Thuggish behavior. When you're fighting somebody who's not fighting back,
Steven,
and you don't stop,
Steven,
he didn't stop.
You have a better vocabulary than that. I mean, is that the first word that comes to mind? Is thug?
It was thuggish. It was the best word to use at that time. Did you see it, Aguna? Did you see it?
No, I didn't. So, okay,
Man,
fine.
You're ignorant. Don't bring your ignorance here to me.
Thug is a British soccer fan.
Why don't you watch it?
Can I finish? You went on a rant about a thug. Look, a thug is a British soccer player that's acting like a hooligan in the stands. That's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. He was an emotional fan that got the best.
Kyle Larson was not fighting back. He would not stop, and it was thuggish behavior.
Well, okay. If you say so, since you're the thug expert, I'll take your word for it.
All right, so
but it seems like that's a little overkill.
Steven, let's go on to the Commanders. Steven, let's go into the Commanders. Behavior. Go into the Commanders. What did the Commanders do this weekend?
It didn't. It actually was comical because I think you have a better vocabulary than that.
So I wish I was so easily amused.
Steven, what happened with your
focus? Steven, focus.
Well, they won. How about that?
They won? Wow. Who did they beat?
I thought it was a baseball game.
The Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears. And you know what? I didn't have them beating the Chicago Bears. But now that Carson Wentz is hurt, your garbage is not our treasure. Your Carson Wentz garbage is not this man's treasure. So now we have Heineke coming in, and you watch now. Heineke is going to beat the Green Bay Packers. I guarantee it. Because
what's the bet on that? Are you betting Angela?
Football player.
Are you betting Angela on that? What's the bet? What's the wager on that, Steven?
We don't talk about that.
So what's the line on it? Who's favored? The Packers are favored, obviously, because they lost.
Favored by like 6, 7, something like that. But it doesn't matter because the Packers haven't done anything this year. They've looked miserable.
Yeah, they look pretty bad. They look pretty bad against the Giants. So
and Aaron Rodgers has a hand injury, much like Dak does, but he won't come out. He's going to still play. There's no way that an injured Aaron Rodgers with no receivers can do anything. Not even Austin Eckler. I mean, not Austin Eckler. Aaron Jones, he can't do anything. He's on my team too. With Eckler.
He's on my fantasy team too. I'm about to say.
But Aaron Jones. I'm going to sit Aaron Jones down because nobody's scared of Aaron Rodgers anymore.
Yeah.
Are you scared of Aaron Rodgers?
I'm not scared of him, but I know this year has been pretty weird in football, in which a lot of these big name quarterbacks are finally showing their age, and they're finally showing that, they're pretty much, oh man, my light went out. So they're pretty much showing that, that they're not like immortal. So it's one of those things where,
as in Tom Brady going to Robert Kraft's wedding over the weekend. Tom Brady going to Robert Kraft's wedding over the weekend, coming back. His offensive line didn't do good, and then he curses them out on the sideline. I mean, I think that's really showing your age. I thought that was unnecessary. I thought it was out of tune. It was totally out of tune.
It's so much his age. His head's not in it. Tom Brady's head is not in it.
It's not in it. His head is not in it. You're right. His head is not in it.
If his wife didn't have many other boyfriends, then maybe his head would be in it.
Where are you getting that from?
He's making it up. Boyfriend? He's making it up.
They're going through a divorce. Something's not right with him and his wife.
Okay, but all I know is what he's doing with the team is not beneficial to Tampa Bay, and he probably should not have unretired. Right?
He could have unretired if he didn't have the problems with Miss Butchkin. If he didn't have those problems, this is really messing him up. And this is why he's going to a wedding. This is why he's doing other things. His head's not in the game right now. He's if you know anybody that's gone through a breakup or a divorce or something like that, it really messes with their heads. So he's having a really hard time. And that's what it's all about with Tom Brady right now. He still has the skill to be great.
Well, his team, he can't play defense, right? So I think there was a meltdown again against the lowly Steelers. Tom Brady, he's one of those perfectionist type quarterbacks, and he doesn't handle defeat well, right? So to lose to a team like that, the way he did, again, they only put up 18 points, but the Steelers kind of, they didn't get a stop there at the end or something. But to get on to his personal business, these guys are athletes. He's been playing at this level for a long time. It's just his body isn't the same that it was 10, 15 years ago. So it's catching up to him. It's a lot of these teams in the NFC, like I said, these quarterbacks in the NFC, as well as the AFC with Russell Wilson. You see what's going on with the Broncos there. But, these guys are looking bad.
What happened with Russell Wilson? Every time he turned around, they sacked him. His O-line gave him no protection. They gave him no time in the pocket.
The criticism against Russell.
Overtime.
Well, the criticism against Russell Wilson was he can't read. All of a sudden, this veteran quarterback, this $200 million, $200 million veteran quarterback can't read defenses and things like that. At some points, once you get this payday, what does he really have to prove? He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. He's got this big payday with Denver. The Denver team wasn't poised to be in the Super Bowl. It was still kind of doing some rebuilding stuff right there. They thought Russell Wilson would be the X factor. Again, it had probably much to do with selling the team than it did his actual performance. And again, he's just not, he didn't grow up or evolve with this team. He got put on it as a veteran free agent. You got young guys in the locker room that were using Russell Wilson when they were growing up playing Madden, on their team. It's a whole different aspect of it. I don't think it was like one of those teams that was going to poise to get over the hump. It was one of those teams that were trying to throw everything together and hope you can compete in the AFC West. And there's some powerhouse teams in the AFC West that, they're just not going to, they're not going to be able to hang against the Chargers and Kansas City.
Stacy, he has a torn lat. He has a hamstring that's messed up. It's injuries. That's what's wrong with Russell Wilson.
Right.
Yes,
and that's what they said from last night.
Physically well.
That's what they said last night.
Right.
He's got beat up. He may be missing a couple of weeks. Yeah, he's older.
Who's the backup?
But that doesn't, you know what, Aguna? Younger football players miss time too. It's not because he's older. He's not even that old. What is he, 35, 36? He's not even that old.
Well, in football, when you're close, he's close to retirement, right? As soon as you hit 30 in the NFL, you're old, okay? And in the NFL, either you walk away or you get knocked away. Quarterbacks,
injuries that he's playing.
Quarterbacks, when they age, get knocked out the league. That's just the way it is. You want to ask Brett Favre about it. These quarterbacks, once they get over a certain age, they become injury prone. They get knocked out the league. Tom Brady and all these guys are exceptions. And you're right, Steven. You can have injuries when you're younger too, right? That happens. But it's especially prevalent in these veteran quarterbacks. After 19 years of getting hit and you can't keep up with these young guys flying around out of college. It's going to happen. But unfortunately for Russell Wilson, there's a lot of high expectations. And he didn't have an offensive line. He doesn't have the defense he had in Seattle. He doesn't have the receivers he had in Seattle. He doesn't have the running game he had in Seattle. He's a lot of young guys still trying to find their way. And it's just, he can't run that offense.
So
there's a lot of injuries on the running back side too. Look at Melvin Gordon. It's a lot of injuries there. They have too many injuries. It's not Russell Wilson. It's not that he's not capable anymore. It's that there's too much going against him right now. He has major, and he's like ripped here. Wow. He's got his hamstrings messed up. It's not the fact that he's not capable. It's the fact that he's hurt, and there's a lot of people hurt on the team. And the defense for Denver, they're ferocious. If you saw that game, they are ferocious. The Denver defense is not the problem.
Look, You're saying he's not capable, Steven. If you're saying he's not capable,
healthy, they might be undefeated.
We don't have to worry about that anymore. Let's go on to the Kansas City Buffalo game. Now, I hate these commentators talking about the Kansas City Buffalo game is the current game football teams to watch, like the Eagles aren't undefeated in the entire league. They're going to talk about Kansas City and Buffalo. I mean, they're great teams, but come on, you can't ignore us.
Yeah, but it's not an apples to apples, Stacey. And I get what you're saying because we're undefeated and we're still not getting respect. But at the same time, Kansas City and the Bills, this has become like the quintessential rivalry of our era right now because Kansas City always beats Buffalo in the playoffs. They put them out the last couple of years. And by the way, Buffalo always beats Kansas City during the regular season. So it's like when these teams go at it, and they went at it, this was a game that, it was a back and forth. I got Priest Holmes. I got Patrick Mahomes. That's how old I am. I got Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback. So I was hoping that he'd throw up 3 or 4 touchdowns, get out there. But that Buffalo secondary got after him. I mean, he threw 2 critical interceptions. Josh Allen, again, he went off. And see, the thing about Buffalo, which is so scary, they're not 100%. I mean, you got Tre'Davious White is coming back. You got all these guys coming back on the defensive side of the ball. So a defense that's already rock solid is just going to probably get better. And you have this high-powered offense with a quarterback and Josh Allen that is really hitting his peak right now. He's like the Big Ben 2.0 of this era right now. And then, with Patrick Mahomes, he is a playmaker. So you have these 2 phenomenal quarterbacks going at it. Yeah, I get it. Even though the Eagles-Cowboys game was a rivalry game, you had Jalen Hurts against Cooper Rush versus Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, they're going to get the hype, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with everybody focusing on the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm okay with the Eagles being under the radar and, really being looked at as it's just a matter of playing a hard team, then they'll get beat kind of thing. That's what's going on. Build the confidence, get it to the playoffs, and anything can happen. That's what our team get to the playoffs healthy, and anything can happen. So I'm okay with that, but that was the game of the week. Those are 2 Titans going at each other, so I can't take it away from that.
Okay, well, go ahead and talk about the Eagles and that game. I saw you play, as you usually do, play with some Eagles fan. I don't even know why you waste your time talking about Eagles.
Cowboys fan. Yeah, I got to.
Oh, what did I say?
I got to.
What did I say? I thought I said Cowboys. What did I say?
You said Eagles fan. It was a Cowboys fan. I took a friend of mine, one of my family members to the game, and I did it on purpose because I had to use him as a prop.
Oh, so he was a Cowboys fan?
He was a Cowboys fan,
okay.
And my section they didn't get at him too bad, but there were a lot of undercover Cowboy fans in there hoping for a miracle.
Yeah,
but here's the thing: that was a very live playoff, Super Bowl caliber atmosphere in there. There was no way the Cowboys were going to win that game. Now the Cowboys, and secretly, they got all these excuses on the back end, but on the front end, they were thinking that they could compete. And for the most part, they did not compete. Now there was a time in the third quarter where, they gave the ball to Zeke and, the Eagles got away from running the ball. But when the Eagles had to close the game out, they closed the game out. So it gave the Cowboys hope a little bit. I was concerned because I didn't think the Eagles were going to covered the spread as well as beat the Cowboys. That's a great thing. Now, here's the thing, though. These Cowboy fans are already coming up with the excuse that somehow if Dak Prescott comes back, that's going to solve all their problems. Right. This guy hasn't played for 5 weeks, but he's supposed to come back and immediately take them to the Super Bowl because Cooper Rush, they were 4-1 with Cooper Rush, so automatically in a delusional Cowboys mind, okay, when we get Dak back, we'll be even better.
Right.
Let's not forget the Cowboys' offensive line sucks. Okay. Also, you see that Dak Prescott was struggling week 1 when he was there. So all of a sudden he's skip 5 weeks, come back and just be ready to take this team to the Super Bowl. The defense is overrated. Don't get me wrong. Michael Parsons, he's a phenomenal athlete. But you saw what the Eagles did. They ran it right at him. They ran it down his throat. They blocked him. They chipped him. They did all kind of stuff. He was frustrated.
Oh my gosh.
Aguna, how do you let them come back the way they did?
Well, Aguna got somehow disconnected.
I think his head exploded.
Stacy's on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Somehow
you all are going crazy. First, Aguna was so excited, knocking his computer off.
Yeah, I think his head exploded.
The Eagles, whenever you're talking about the Eagles, it makes you crazy.
Basically. So Nas just came on. So Nas, Aguna's back. So
sorry, I dropped my phone. Technical difficulties. But I'll just finish real quick. So I think that the Eagles, at this point, we're 6-0. We only really need to win 4 or 5 more games to solidify the East and a playoff spot. So it's all going to come down to injuries right now. But it was a phenomenal game, great atmosphere. The defense stepped up, made turnovers. People were dancing. We were leading the whole time. It was a great day to be in Philadelphia when we beat the Cowboys. So I'm looking forward to – and then we're going into a bye on a high note. So, exactly.
Congratulations. Fly, Eagle, fly. I got Jalen Hurts and I got A.J. Brown. I'm loving the Eagles this year.
So wait, did you guys hear one of the announcers was the former Dallas Cowboy coach? And he said, fly, Eagles, fly. What was his name? He's got like red hair, short red hair.
Are you talking about Jason Garrett?
Yeah.
He said, fly, Eagles, fly. I could not believe
he had to give them their due. He gave them their due.
And he needs to. What Dallas did to him, they ran him out of town on a rail. They didn't give him Jason Garrett, to his defense, to his credit, was a good offensive coach. He just couldn't get over the hump. And he had Tony Romo, who, was always a choke artist, so that didn't help. But, yeah, these Cowboy fans are pathetic. They're over here talking about, he's just now Cooper Rush is just a backup. And when Dak comes back, we're going to see y'all in Dallas and all this stuff. Look, Dallas Cowboys suck. They're going to stink for the most part the rest of the season. You'll see when they play. I mean, we both have kind of fairly easy schedules. But you'll notice with the Cowboys, when you get a good defense against them, they're going to fold. And you're going to see it with Dak Prescott. Don't underestimate Detroit. They play Detroit this weekend, so they're trying to ease Dak back, and they think it's going to be an easy game. They're going to be a tough opponent, especially if their running back is back.
Detroit hasn't won a game on the road since you were born. There's no way Detroit is going to win this game.
Well, here's the thing.
No way.
Here's the thing. I don't say no way. The NFL's a male soap opera. Okay, there was no way you would think that the Redskins or the Commanders would beat Chicago. No, but look at all the upsets that happened.
A lot of people had Washington team beating Chicago. A lot of people did.
Yeah, but there's a lot of upsets. There are a lot of upsets going on in the NFL.
Well, wait a minute. Excuse me.
No, wait.
I'm going to bring Nas in here, but I want
What about the Giants versus the Ravens? You think the Giants would beat the Ravens? Yeah, they did.
I think so. No.
You never know.
But the Ravens are not Giants. No, the Detroit Lions cannot win on the road.
But we'll see. There's a lot of first time. There's a first time for everything. But
so look at this, and I'm going to ask Nas to comment on this, and then Aguna, you can. It says, despite this. Regardless of the scoreboard, the Cowboys defense performed extremely well given the hand they were dealt, a grade A-. They did everything they could in order to give the team its best chance to win. Holding Jalen Hurts to just 155 yards passing, given the circumstances, was a huge factor in keeping the game close, I think, after they were down 20-0. They said Hurts didn't do too much damage on the ground, as well as he only gained 27 yards in that department. Nas, what's your comment on Dallas defense against the Eagles? Because last week you were talking about our problem.
Yeah. I actually wouldn't say Dallas defense played well. I would say they played way below what they've been all season. for them to win without Dak, that defense has to be excellent. It can't just be pretty good. It has to be excellent. And the fact that the Eagles didn't have, many yards or Hurts didn't put up much, most of that is because after they got the lead, they started milking. They were more concerned with time and score and field position than anything else. And then once the Cowboys scored a little bit, they kind of turned it back on and said, okay, open the playbook back up again. So I don't know. I think that's some moral victory stuff they want to talk themselves into. But no, I don't think the defense was especially good. No.
That's absolutely the Cowboys fandom is pandering to the Cowboys fandom, because this is what it is. Okay, Cowboys fans always live in the past. All right, that's what they're known for. It's been over a quarter of a century. They love to bring up old stuff, right? So you got to throw them some red meat. You would think that the Cowboys actually won this weekend the way these clowns are talking. They literally thought that they had a chance in that third quarter. And I tell Cowboys fans, okay, first thing, our left tackle Lane Johnson went out, so we had to change the offense a little bit.
That was horrible.
He was in concussion protocol, right? Yes. Quote unquote. Yes. And so you saw how now
so
the pass rush is getting to him a little bit.
Do you think he really didn't have a concussion? What do you think he had?
Well, I think there's a hypersensitivity to player safety now, and rightfully so. Yes. Okay, so sometimes a player, whether or not he wants to or not, he's got to come out that game so they can check him out, and they're not going to risk putting him back in there under those circumstances.
Not after what happened to Tua.
Yeah, so there again, concussion protocol. We don't know. None of us knows. I'll use Keith's line. Nobody knows anything, right? So, but you saw where it changed the game a little bit, right? And so now the Cowboys are desperate. They want to grasp any little straw they can to hang their hat on to justify in their minds the delusion of Dak's going to come back and be this superhero. When in fact, their defense played very poorly. The Eagles didn't put up a lot of yards because they didn't have to. Our defense had 3 turnovers, that led to 17 points. Sometimes you don't have to turn on the spigot, or you don't have to win by 30 points to dominate a game. We dominated that game from start to finish. They never led. And despite all the Cowboys saying, hey, our defense stepped up, a couple penalties here and there, drives getting killed early on in the third quarter. Next thing you know, here come the Cowboys. They bring it within 3. Eagles get the ball back and just proceed to march down. Now, that drive in the fourth quarter where the Eagles marched down the field at will, they invoked their will on the Dallas defense. I'm talking about 3rd and 4, they're running the ball down their throat. And so it begs the question, what are they really?
Lost without those turnovers, you may have lost.
Yeah, you know what? And when we would have missed field goals, we would have lost. And we wouldn't have got these things. We would have coulda, woulda, shoulda. Look, the defense forced those turnovers.
Eagles need to tighten up. The Eagles need to tighten up if they're going to compete on the big stage. They haven't played anybody.
Look, you play your schedule. This is those age-old narratives that don't mean anything. You play your schedule. All right. Yeah, this is the NFL. This ain't the powder puff league. All right. All these teams have All-American grade star athletes on it. It's hard to win week after week consistently in the NFL. How many teams have been 6-0? No matter what. Even these so-called weaker teams. I mean, who's a weak team? Is the Minnesota Vikings? Are they a weak team? They have 1 loss. Okay. We played them. The Detroit Lions were undefeated when we played them, right? It was the first game of the year. Jacksonville was 2-1.
I hope you continue towards that way. Congratulations on 6-0. It's a long season.
Thank you. Listen, and
I'm pulling for y'all. No. I'm invested in your team, Aguna. I'm invested.
And on that note, I'd like to move on to Nas, who's going to tell us how he ate his hat now that the Philadelphia Phillies whipped some AS of Atlanta Braves. Go ahead, Nas.
Well, sometimes you just got to give it up to people, man. Their pitching was superb. They got timely hitting. The Braves hitting disappeared. We may never see Dasby in a Braves uniform again after that performance. But, no, you got to give it to Philly, man. They earned it. They did what they had to do. And we'll see tonight what you guys do against Darvish. Hopefully y'all go to at least the series, you know what I mean, since you made it this far. But, y'all got rest days. You got to set up your pitchers. So y'all got a good chance of going somewhere, man. Like I don't hate the Phillies, so I'm not looking at it like this is like if this was the Nationals or somebody else that knocked us out, I have a whole different attitude about it. But I don't hate the Phillies like that. So we'll see, man. And I like this, so.
Look at these boys with these dolls. You all collect dolls?
Yes, indeed, we do.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
well,
we do.
That's the Fanatic, Todd. I know you don't know that. It's not a Serena doll. It's the Fanatic, the Philly Fanatic. Okay.
Okay. Well, what about his doll? Is that a Barbie or what?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what doll Steven has. That's a. You have to ask him.
Doll.
Is that a Ken doll or what? I can't see it.
It's a G.I. Joe.
Oh,
It's more of a G.I. Joe.
That's nice. Mm-hmm.
It's like a Redskin ice cream cone.
Goody.
Now it's an antique.
You know what? It's worth a lot of money. Because you know what? Again, the Redskins, they're still undefeated this year.
Well, they're not undefeated because there is no such team as the Redskins.
Yeah.
Just as there's no team called the Honkies or the Crackers or Rednecks or any of those.
I'd rather the Honkies, Crackers, or Rednecks over the Commanders. The Commanders is a stupid name, and they need to change that name. Nobody that's a fan of Washington football team. We'd rather have the Washington football team than Commanders. It's a horrible name. It's stupid, and nobody likes it. It's like the Guardians in Cleveland. The Guardians.
So buy the team and change it. Buy the team and change it, Steven. It's simple.
Well, why don't you and I and Todd put our money together and buy the team? I can't.
And why don't we move on? Why don't we move on to Nas telling us how that debate went with Herschel Walker and Senator Raphael Warnock?
Yeah, Walker kicked his butt.
That's how we all expected it to go. The Rev is a good guy, man. Because of his upbringing and who he is as a Rev, he didn't get as dirty and forceful, as aggressive as he should have, in my opinion.
Right.
Did he kill his wife during the debate?
Out there about it, but the Rev wanted to take the high road, so he didn't do that. But ultimately, the thing that sticks out from the debate is always going to be Herschel holding that badge up. That's what people are going to remember.
Yeah.
But Herschel is kind of proof that if you don't know anything, then you just throw as much ish on the wall as you can and hope it sticks.
Yeah.
So that's basically what he was doing. Like, he was just saying anything. Like, it
literally
really didn't matter what the question was, what the topic was.
Yeah.
At a certain point,
he's going to win.
But I mean, Reverend Warnock did what he needed to do. Stayed above it.
I always think taking the high road is the dumbest road to take.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should go as low as they go, but lower. And then with somebody
Herschel Walker
like
didn't go low.
With somebody like Walker, he's just easy pickings. You could just lay into him all day long.
And why didn't he? Then why did he lose the debate? Why did he lose
the debate? Listen to me. He didn't lose only to people like you.
Yes, he did.
People like you, he lost the debate because you like to hear Herschel Walker
He
say,
lost the debate.
I sheriff of Nottingham, and I am the FBI. See, that turns you on.
I mean, only a first grader would think he won that debate.
He won
the debate, and he's going to win. He's going to win the Senate seat. He's going to win.
So,
you've never been right on this show. Steven, you've never been right on this show.
Every time I open my mouth.
You predicted Trump would win.
Every time I open my mouth.
So Steven, why did Herschel Walker win the debate in your opinion?
Be specific.
Because
I like him. I like him.
He stuck to the issues. He said everything that was wrong with the Democrat Party. Yeah, he said what is wrong with what's going on in this country that is this direct result of the Democrat Party. And that's why Herschel Walker and other people like him are going to win, because 75% of this country is not stupid. And they understand that the left
didn't watch
and the
debate, did you? You didn't watch it, did you? You didn't watch the debate, did you?
Are going to win, and we're all
going to win
in the end. Yeah, if you want not to have any money, if you want to pay $20 for a gallon of gas, vote Democrat.
He didn't watch the
if you
debate.
don't want to be
You
on the
didn't watch
side
it. Just say
that's
you
for
didn't watch it.
the people who make this country
Just say
run.
you didn't
if you don't
watch
want to be
it.
on that side, then vote elitist Democrat, and you're going to lose.
Okay.
And the only way
Now,
you can win is if you
Okay,
cheat.
Stacey, you're
Um,
letting
we have
him
people
go
all
on and
more
over
I-
the
on and
polls
on.
say that
Yeah.
Whenever I
make
do
sure
that,
it's
she
not, they're not
Former
going to cheat.
Look at this.
is not the
The-
elitist, but the Reverend at Ebenezer Baptist is the elitist. That's what you're telling us?
Aguna.
The more Stephen talks, the dumber we get. Let's stop this nonsense. He obviously didn't watch the debate. And instead of admitting that, he goes into this diatribe of narrative, the same nonsense. And see, with people like Stephen, when they go on those rants like that, and you ask them specifically, what did you like about Herschel Walker? He said everything he said. No, what specifically is he going to do for the people of Georgia to earn their vote? He's not a serious candidate. He proves that time and time again. And you look silly when you're sitting there trying to defend that, going into these diatribes of Democratic Party this, Democratic Party, and you're supposed to be an independent thinker. Really? So if you want to go against the Democratic Party so much, let's talk issues. Once on this show, Stephen, you can bring some factual issues to debate, because when you start talking policy, you have more credibility than this narrative bull crap that you always spew every week. All we ask you to do is bring some substance debate to the table. And for some reason, that's beyond you. So as you continue to go through this diet, look at you, look at this.
I told you.
You continue, hey, look,
I told you.
if you want to be a clown in the circus, it's on you. Everybody, let's watch this clown. Let's watch this clown.
Told you.
Look at that.
I told you.
Okay.
Do you want to be
We don't
taken
like your
seriously?
policies. We don't like
All right, so-
Like
Democrat
what? What policy?
That's
What
why
policy?
you're going to lose.
What
we
policy?
don't like your policies. I said policies.
Like what?
We don't like
See,
your policies.
I want
That's
the
why
studio,
you're a
I want the
loser.
audience to
Watch.
understand this.
Unless you steal the
This
election,
is what you're going
gonna
up
lose.
against. He's not saying anything of substance. He's just saying, we don't like your
It is.
policies. Okay. Let's start with
We
one.
don't like
What's
your
the first policy you
policies.
don't like?
Nothing
Like what?
that Democrats are doing is what we support.
Like
Normal,
what?
everyday people support him.
Like what?
I'm not going to tell you what,
The
because I don't
following
know.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. You didn't watch the debate and you don't know what you're talking about. Stephen, do yourself a favor.
We're going to vote against
Your
you.
candidate
Okay.
goes with Joe Biden.
Okay,
We
all
don't
right.
agree with him.
Okay,
we don't
now,
agree with
we
the
have to
direction
man.
he's taking this
Look, man.
country.
Okay,
And that's
Stephen,
policy,
You
We have to
proven
move
you
on.
proven my point.
All right,
That's
let me,
policy.
okay.
We don't
This
agree
is
with
your
what
brain.
you're doing to this country.
He watched
So
those
he's
big
going to
commercials
lose.
come on before
And
the
Walker,
UFC.
even though Walker's
And
not a
that
great
is-
candidate, he's
And
going to
that's his
win.
analysis. And we're supposed to listen to him and take him seriously.
Okay, so
But seriously, watch.
So-
Unless you steal it like they did Trump.
so let me ask Nas.
Rita,
Let
did
me
you
ask
read the
Nas.
book last week?
Excuse me. Let me ask
Oh, sorry.
Nas about the gubernatorial race, because Stacey Abrams, as I've seen her on TV, has been saying that she's been going all over Georgia, to the reaches of Georgia that Brian Kemp, the current Georgia governor, has not. What is going to make the difference, and how many times does she think she can run and be a viable candidate, running and losing?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody can keep running after they lose, especially a statewide election that's this focused. This has this much focus for the rest of the nation. So this is a big spot. But just getting to the meat and bones of it, like if you watch the debate and like you clearly can see the difference between Abrams and Kemp. One understands policy, can communicate what she has planned, what she thinks needs to be fixed. And Kemp is just basically up there doing I would call it the Trumper Tourette's, where you just keep restating false info that demonizes the other person in a certain way. So we called her an angry black woman. He said she's trying to defund the police. Meanwhile, the part that I don't think a lot of Trumpers get is the people like Abrams, who are centrist Democrats, like Abrams has talked about raising the pay for police. She's talked about different things that I completely
Look at Stephen. No, she
No, she
didn't.
hasn't.
senators.
If she was a Republican,
did.
if she switched from D to R, Stephen, would you vote for her? If she was a
Wait a
Republican,
minute.
would you vote for her?
Let Nas finish. Let Nas finish. Go ahead, Nas.
No, the part these people don't get is if you keep rejecting the center, you actually will strengthen the real left, the progressive people who you don't want anywhere near power, who you disagree with on most issues. On most issues, if you actually looked at Stacey Abrams' platform, if you're a conservative, someone like Aguna who would read through a policy and say, okay, yeah, this person's a better candidate than that one. I don't vote D or R, I vote candidate. And he would probably pick Stacey Abrams based on what she knows, qualifications, and what her policies are going forward. But we're caught in this like feedback loop where these people have just decided the Democrats are the socialists coming to kill us, and then the Republicans are the only people trying to restore freedom. Now, as long as you fall by that dynamic, you'll never get any policy, you'll never get a politician worth the salt, and we'll just keep doing this over and over again. But anybody who watched that debate the other day, you kind of clearly see the difference. But in Georgia, it's going to be really close. But she's made a lot of inroads in those rural areas that typically vote Republican, so we'll see. Brian Kemp, not a smart man, not very. I don't know how to describe him, man, because you don't know how much of it is an act to where he's saying, okay, if I know I can pull a couple Stevens and Keiths, then I'll just, do this show for them, give them the buffoonery that they want, as opposed to being an old school, like fiscally conservative, buttoned up type person. So it's a difficult one, but yeah, this race is going to be really close. We're going to see.
So my question to Stephen is, Stephen, if wouldn't it be better to for voters of Georgia to vote for Stacey Abrams and vote her into the governorship as opposed to not? Because the last time they did not vote her in, Donald Trump lost.
No, I don't care what Donald Trump wins or loses. I'm not a Donald Trump devotee. She said when she lost before, she said this election was stolen. The election was stolen. Now she's a great big liar. Because she says, I never said that. I never said that. But all you have to do is go back and listen to her when she said, this election was stolen from me. This election was stolen from me. You can talk all you want, Nas. I don't care. She's absolute garbage. I don't like her policies. I don't like her at all. And it's not, Nas, it's not about Republicans or Democrats. It's about good people and bad people. A lot of Republicans are not
one policy.
Constitutional people, but there are a lot of
Name
people
one policy.
The policies are that's Georgia politics right there. But I know Stacey is not a
what
good
did you
person.
just say?
She's not. She's 10 points down. She cannot win because nobody wants her.
Name a policy you don't agree with.
It's not close.
Okay.
Nas is
Cousin Todd, let me get Cousin Todd in here.
You don't agree with.
Let me get Cousin Todd in here.
So it's a non-story. It's a non-story.
Let me get Cousin Todd in here. Cousin Todd, I just asked Stephen, wouldn't it have been better for the voters of Georgia to have voted in Stacey Abrams as governor last time, because she would not have had the time to get the voters up against Donald Trump.
Registered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Donald Trump lost Georgia, and that was probably having a lot to do with her efforts of her organization Fair Fight. Wouldn't it be better to let her be occupied? If I was, if I were a Trump supporter, which I am not, if I were a Trump supporter, which I am not, I would rather have Stacey Abrams being busy doing something else than to get her busy fighting against me. She, that Fair Fight organization she has is serious.
Right. But she was going to do that anyway. When Kemp emptied off the voting rolls, she was definitely going to do that. And so whether she was running or not, but I wanted to get back to Keith not naming any policy he's for or against.
That's not Keith. You mean Stephen.
When I'm talking to one, I'm talking to both.
Oh my
Freaking crap. So he never named a policy, which he never will.
All right, Todd, you can't go on for an hour.
Oh, that's funny. Only Stephen can. And so anyway, what happens is these people don't listen to facts, or they don't vote their own interest, but they listen to Fox News and the dark web, and then they form their opinion based on somebody else's opinion. Now, going back to uh, uh, who were we talking about? We were talking about Georgia
Stacey Abrams.
no, we were talking about Reverend
were.
Warnock. We were talking about Reverend Warnock and Keith
Senator
and
Warnock.
Stephen. Reverend Keith
Senator
and Stephen
Warnock
would like him because he's a Christian, he's a pastor, and that's right up Keith's alley. And so he's very conservative, but the fact that he's a Democrat, oh no, that X's him out right there, which is silly. Instead of them thinking, well, he has Christian values, not fake like the Republicans, like Trump, Christian values. And so that would be something you can get behind. But because there's a D in front of his name, he's out. And
okay. Sorry, you've got to stop
he
there.
didn't
Let me get
pay
Keith
for
in
an
here.
abortion. He didn't hold a gun to his wife's head. He didn't do any of those ridiculous things that this guy who is mentally unstable, and he said so, he didn't do any of those things. So why would you be against him?
So Keith, let me ask you, and then I got to bring Aguna in because he has to have, a backup or a response or reply to what Keith has to say. Keith, do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Would it be better for gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams to win than not to win? Because if you are a Trump supporter, which I am not, but if you are a Trump supporter, having Stacey Abrams have free time to run against you is not wise. Don't you agree?
Nope. I don't think Stacey Abrams ought to be anywhere near politics or near, in my opinion. She shouldn't
because
even
of what?
Power. She shouldn't be in power.
Because of what?
I want to make a comment.
Because of what? Because she looks like your mother?
No, because she is not a woman who supports the conservative values of our country. She supports the Marxist values of the left, meaning Democrat. Stacey Abrams should not be allowed. All right. She is a Marxist, just like many of the other Democrats. And so I also want to make a point, just for public view. I am a supporter of Trump. I think Trump would be the best guy for the job in 2024. Let me also say that Walker, this is to answer Aguna. Walker, the most important issue for governor would be life, and the governor is pro-life. In other words, Walker is going to protect the life of the unborn, and that is what is the most important thing. He's got to be able to do that because God ordained it, and that is the part of what government is supposed to do. Our Declaration of Independence says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by our Creator, their Creator, with life, liberty, and property, or pursuit of happiness. So the Creator has given us life, and that life ought to be protected by government, number one. That's number one.
Okay, I don't mean to contradict you, but you're for the death penalty. You're for the death penalty, so that's a contradiction.
So let me get Aguna in here.
Compare the death penalty to abortion.
Yes, ma'am, I can. Death. He's talking about God and God.
Okay, Aguna, Nas was so disgusted with what Keith had to say, he just hung up. Do you want to answer the question I asked earlier?
About Stacey Abrams well, the thing about it is, after what happened, again, when Stacey Abrams talked about the election, she was talking about what Kemp did with purging the voting rolls and some of the dirty tricks around. But I mean, I've always been a proponent of just let people vote. Let's figure it. I mean, we have the technology, we can track it. Let's let people vote and hold it on the onus on the politicians to go in there with a policy discussion. And you could tell by what, Keith and Stephen are just spewing ideology. But if you look at, especially Ralph Warnock, he is a moderate. I mean, I'm talking about he's a very centralist. He's introduced most of his bills were around military and protecting military families and things like that. So you actually look at his track record, actually look at some of the things that he's done while being in the Senate for people of Georgia, by the way, because there are a lot of military bases, a lot of military families in Georgia. He's actually has a track record and he's delivered on that. Now, if you want to just pin him to the ideology of the Democratic Party by sitting there and talk about abortion, nobody is for abortion. People are for people's rights to choose. Abortion is a private matter. If it's up to me, I would not get an abortion. I wouldn't want my family to get an abortion. Okay. Nobody, but it's a hard decision. It's a hard decision between a doctor, the woman, and her family. Government should not be part of that decision. So it's a fool's errand to sit here and try to justify the expansion of government for the lives of the unborn, but you don't want to take care of them even when they're born. You don't want to expand childcare. You don't want to give tax credits to people who have kids. You don't want to help people get adoptions. You don't want to increase. I mean, Trump actually took away our ability to do charitable donations to institutions or to, yes, he did. Believe me, you used to be able to give $10,000 a year as an individual, you donate and have that written off in your taxes. Trump took that away. So we actually increased the taxes. Again, you can ask any accountant. He streamlined.
That was perfect for people like Keith and Stephen. And so then the Republicans wanted that cut. So they want you to have this baby and then starve it to death. So let me get back to what I was saying about the two-faced double talking. I believe in the death penalty, but I don't believe in abortion. I believe in going to war and killing, but I don't believe in abortion. You can't have it both ways. God said don't kill, except when your government tells you.
Then you believe God said don't kill, then why are you pro-death? If you believe God said do not kill, then why are you pro-death, Todd?
Well, Stephen and Keith,
you're just full of crap.
I'm full of crap.
Nonsense. So the government should tell you what to do. Government, you're for the government telling you what to do.
God just showed everybody how full of crap he is.
You're for the government telling you what to do.
So you know what I find very interesting.
Let's expand government and control our lives.
So you know what I find interesting? That when these women, they show a lot of news reports on women who go from one state, their state that doesn't allow abortion, to a state that does allow abortion, right? And the women talk about how they have to go, they have to sit, they have to hope that they can get in and get this abortion because there are other people that have appointments and sometimes there isn't room for them. But my thing is, the women can't get pregnant by themselves. No woman has gotten pregnant alone. So why is all the women going alone to these abortion clinics, and why aren't the men supporting the women? Let's start with Stephen.
Because it's been a thing that men have done to women for years. They said, honey, I'm sorry, I'll pay for your abortion. And then they tell them that abortion is the only thing that's a woman's issue. It's abortion. It's abortion. That's a woman's issue. You know what women's issues are? Everything that's a man's issue. Everything that goes on in this world is a woman's issue. But they make it a women's issue because it's abortion. No, okay. Women are sometimes cornered to have abortions because men don't want to have the responsibility of it. And a lot of time it's men being beaten down on women saying, you're going to get this abortion. I'll pay for it. And then that's what it's going to turn out to be. No, it doesn't have to happen. What has to happen is people need to realize it's not an abortion. It's killing a baby. When people realize.
All right. Aguna.
Yeah, so you start getting into this debate. And again, you're not going to hear any substance of this. It's either black or white. And each individual story around these abortions, there are real people having to make these choices. And I don't want to project my values on these people. It's between them, their God, their doctor, their family. And for any Yahoo on this show to sit up here and try to be self-righteous because you don't have to deal with the issue and feel so emboldened to try to describe what's murder, what's killing a baby, and what's not. Look, that's for God. It's not up to you. Let them decide
Yes.
when they make their maker. And at the end of the day, and this before you go on your high righteous hopes as if you've never done anything wrong in your life or made a decision that the government doesn't make for you, because clearly you want the government to now control all our lives, something
I've
that you
never
project on
killed
the Democrat.
anybody.
At the end of the
Not
day,
all of our lives, just
so
girls.
and then, so exactly. So when does life start? Does it start at conception? Does it start when there's a heartbeat? Does it start at any point where you start getting into the science of this? You see how silly you're going to get, because at the end of the day, there could be cases in which the pregnancy threatens the life of the mother. And Steve and Keith on this show said, if it comes down to the mother and the child, it should be up to the doctor to determine who lives or who dies, not the husband, not the family, but the doctor should come in and say, okay, this person has this amount of percentage chance, this person has this amount of percentage chance. So we're going to decide, and I'm going to play God, and I'm going to let the mother die to save the child because it's 49%, 51%. But that makes sense to these guys.
So Keith, did you hear my question was, why do the women have to go alone? They didn't get pregnant alone.
Well, a lot of times it's their choice. I have to say, I'm going to confess, when I was 27 years old, that was once upon a time, 27 years old, I had a girlfriend who came to me and said she was pregnant with my child. She said that. She came to me and said that. And she asked for, money to pay for the abortion. I gave her money. Guess what? I gave it to her. And I don't know to this day whether it was really true or not, but, she just did it. So I'll make that confession publicly. I'm not perfect, everybody. Guess what? Welcome to the life of sinners. And men have definitely fallen in that area. But women take some responsibility too, because they don't have to lay in bed with them. And that is the thing. Abstinence is the most important, deterrent for, for abortions. Abstinence, being able to control is the most important thing. But of course, Oz, he had to hang up because he can't take it. But that is very important to talk about.
All right. Thank you, Cousin Todd.
Abstinence. Of course, he would come up with that. So I'll get around abstinence. What about a girl that's on birth control and her birth control fails her and she winds up pregnant? Then what?
Well, then you take responsibility. And just like Herschel Walker did, he paid for his wife, or his ex-wife, as it were. He paid for her. If that's true.
If that is in fact true.
Well, if it is, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to be in his business.
So it's okay.
Be all in his business.
Okay.
Everybody his business about abortion.
All right. So it's okay for Herschel Walker to get an abortion, and it's okay for you to get an abortion, but nobody else.
Well, you do the responsible thing. I did the responsible.
But Keith, this is where you fail. This is where you fail. And I commend you for being brave enough to admit your mistake. Because we all make mistakes. All right. But one of the things that you're overlooking in this case is that was your individual choice to give that woman money. The government didn't have anything to do with that choice. And so that's why in this issue, I stick to the fact that I don't want to take away people's individual freedoms to make something that they need to determine on their own. You made the choice. You didn't know if there was a true baby or fetus or whatever involved, but the government was not there saying, hey, Keith, no matter what this woman says, she could have got pregnant by somebody else. That's your baby. As soon as the government gets involved and starts dictating to us in our private lives on what we should do or what a woman should do with their bodies, and that's why to sit there and watch Herschel Walker as a candidate, I'm not sitting here trying to debate whether abortions are right or wrong. I'm defending people's individual rights to make their own decisions without the government coming in there and telling women what to do with their bodies. It's very simple. It's very simple. It's a difficult choice to make without the government having to get involved.
Not to kill the body that lives in them.
Yeah.
So we got to move on
Thou shalt
because you
not.
guys
Can they
hijacked
vote? So women that are
You
pregnant
guys-
can vote twice.
No, to
hijacked
your
my
point,
show
Thou
because
shalt not
abortion
kill.
was not on it. So
Can
let's go
women
on
that are
to
pregnant vote twice?
well, it's we're talking about a human life.
A woman
The baby-
got
Can
murdered.
a
It's a
woman
double
that is
homicide.
pregnant vote twice?
well, we're talking
If
about
a
another
woman
baby.
is shot and murdered and she's
So if
pregnant,
you're saying that,
it's a
so
double
you're saying,
homicide.
but listen to your debate. You're saying that the fetus or the baby has a right to live, right? They
Yes.
have rights
The baby's
endowed
not
by
18
them by
years
God,
old. The
not
baby
the
is not
government,
18
right?
years old.
Yes.
Right.
But who gives them that right? The government. So you're debating right now
No.
as so-called
The
conservatives the ability of the government.
says if I kill a woman who is pregnant,
right?
it's a double homicide. I've
The
killed two
government doesn't
people.
give them that
But
right.
if a woman kills her baby, it's okay with you. That's mental.
government
You're
does
not.
not-
No, it's not okay. It's up to that woman. I'm not saying it's okay. This
It's
is where
not
you
up to
fail
that
your
woman
argument,
to kill
Stephen.
the baby. It's
No.
not up to the woman to kill her baby.
It's not up
It's
to you
not up to
either.
a
It's
person
not
to
up to
kill
you
another person.
either.
Aguna.
It's not up to
Is it
you
up to
or
me
the
to kill
government
you?
either.
Is it up to me
It's
to
not
kill
up to
you?
you to determine.
No.
So Keith committed
Sure
murder
it
then.
is. It's not up to me. It's
So
up to
Keith
God.
murdered the
God
baby.
says,
Did
"Thou
Keith
shalt not
murder the baby?
kill."
Stephen, you're not
Do
answering the
not
question.
murder the baby. Do not
Did
murder the
Keith murder?
baby.
Did Keith commit murder? Did
All
Keith
right.
commit murder? Yes or no, Stephen?
I'm not advocating. I'm not a lawyer for Keith. What I'm
Shut
saying
the
is
hell
you
up. That's
should not
exactly my
kill the
argument.
baby.
That's exactly my argument. You have
If
no
a
right to
woman is
determine
pregnant,
judgment on him.
if a
You
woman
have no
is
right to
pregnant
determine judgment on him, and neither does the
she gets
government.
killed, it's a
I
double
rest my
homicide.
case. I
Now,
rest
All
my
right.
case.
you
And on that case.
rest on your laurels.
I rest my case. This is just babble at this point. Stephen,
Okay,
you
so
proved
let's move
yourself
on.
wrong.
So let's move on. Sandy Hook, Alex Jones was found guilty. Let me share my screen. And this is important because I think on this show, a lot of times Todd accuses people of saying things that aren't necessarily true or repeating lies. Todd does that all the time, right?
Yep.
So according to the CNN.com business article, Alex Jones owes $965 million to 8 family members of Sandy Hook shooting victims and a first responder, but they don't know if they ever will get the money. And Alex Jones says they're not going to get any money because there is no money to get. But the problem becomes this: why was Alex Jones ever in this position? Why was it that he felt as though he could talk about this shooting and on a journalistic platform and say whatever he wanted? Cousin Todd?
Say that it was a hoax specifically and that it didn't happen. You see? And that is hurting the families who lost their child. And so you can't go around spouting this craziness like Stephen and Keith do about falsehoods. What is the girl's name? She's a politician, crazy Trump supporter. I can't remember her name right now. But this is what Trump supporters do. They go around saying all kinds of ridiculous, and this is what I said to Stephen, you're going to get sued if you keep spreading those falsehoods. And this is what he did, and the family sued him.
Sue me.
And now he has to pay.
Sue me.
And he pretends he doesn't have the money.
Stephen, you don't have any money, Stephen. You don't have any money, Stephen. Nobody's going to waste the time.
Does. But Alex Jones has money. He pretends he doesn't,
Alex Jones,
but he does.
This is another kangaroo court. All it is kangaroo court.
So he did it. So Alex Jones did it
in English.
So wait a minute,
Aguna,
wait. So wait, Stephen.
Let me do with the election.
Let me ask you, Stephen.
It's in Connecticut. What are you talking about?
Stephen, according to this article by CNN.com, he was found guilty of saying these lies over and over and over again and spreading these falsehoods, as you can see right here. You can't do that. And why do you think, Stephen, that it is okay
to do that?
that you can say whatever you want without regard to whether or not
Yeah.
it's the truth.
Stephen, do you believe Sandy Hook happened?
If you look deeper into what he actually said, he's being set up.
It's
Y'all
yes
don't
or
know the
no.
particulars of the case.
Wait,
And
answer the
can
question,
you mute these
Stephen.
Do you
a-holes,
believe that it
No,
happened?
you're not going to
Just
babble
mute
on.
me.
Answer.
Can you mute them? I'm tired of yelling over these people. The neighbors are starting to get nervous. Can you mute them? Tired
Then
of it.
answer the question, and we will.
Why can I still hear Todd? Todd, do you
I
control
don't know.
it? Do
Just
you
answer the
control it? Aguna, do you
As soon as
control
I
it?
mute,
Mute
as soon as I
them.
mute people,
What
I
happened
do. But
is
somehow
this is
they came
another
off.
show trial. Stacy, this is another show trial. The same thing they've been doing with Trump with January 6th. The election's getting ready to come up, and anything that has to do with anybody that's on the right or conservative, this is how they're going to go after them before the election happens. And stupid people who are ignorant
So
and don't pay attention
what
to
candidate
what's
is
going on in the
benefiting
world.
off of this?
Shut
What
up,
candidates are
Aguna. Can you
benefiting?
shut him up? I'm tired of talking over him. Keep running your mouth. No, there he
I
goes.
will.
See,
I
that's what
will.
you do. See? So you're going to keep running your mouth. No, what happens is
Say something
Alex
that
Jones
makes
is
sense.
not going to pay a penny. Alex Jones is not going to pay a penny. He's not going to
But
pay
that's not my
anything. He's not
question.
going to, because
That's
He
not my
doesn't
he's
answer
going
question.
to go
questions,
bankrupt.
Stacey.
Nobody's
Stephen,
going to get
that's
any
not my
money.
question.
He's
What
not
is
going to
this?
answer.
Hey, Keith,
Stephen,
listen.
Stephen,
What this is
Stephen,
to do,
Stephen,
Stacy, what this is to do.
Stephen, I want you to answer my question.
This is to shut people up on the right. This is to shut people up on the right. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Keith, same question to you. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I hear what Stephen says. Stephen's absolutely right. Stephen, it is kind of interesting that
So he's not going to answer the question either. Okay.
It's interesting when she tries to mute these guys, they keep coming back up, Stephen. I think you were right about that. Maybe they have some control over the technology. But the point is, this guy, this guy is being an example, being made an example of what could happen to the rest of us when free speech is censored, because the left media lie day and night, 24 hours a day, lie after lie after lie. They accuse and they accuse and they accuse and they slander.
Okay, that wasn't my question.
They never apologize.
Keith,
No, I'm answering your question.
Keith.
Question. I'm answering your question.
Okay, go ahead.
I said they never have consequences to their slander. So he's being made an example. That's all. That answers.
Okay, all right. Aguna.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you can't say what this guy did was wrong, then I question your humanity as a human being. I mean, the guy shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have used his platform. Again, he wanted to sell vitamins. This all was done he doesn't make a lot of money off his media outlet as he makes off his vitamins that he sells. And so he says controversial things. And let's talk about what happened to these families. Yeah, and Keith and Stephen always talk about the court system and the kangaroo court. No, talk about the harassment that these people experience because they're getting told by complete strangers that their 8-year-old son or daughter really didn't exist and really wasn't horrifically murdered. Now, if you think about what happened in Sandy Hook, I mean, the police officers and first responders that went to that elementary school had to get counseling because you had bodies of children ripped in half by how that gunman unleashed on them. And yet this guy made money and benefited off a conspiracy theory saying it was a hoax. It doesn't matter if he was a conservative. I don't care if he was a Democrat. I don't care. He should be made an example out of. Because again, I don't know what candidate is going to benefit off of the fact that this liar said a conspiracy theory unless it was true. Right? He should pay the money. He should be made an example out of. I agree with all of that stuff. Yes, we need to stop this BS conspiracy theory nonsense. And it's mostly on the right. I mean, the left does it too. I'm not going to sit there and say the left doesn't make money off of conspiracy theories. But if you look at it disproportionately, it's disproportionately done on the right in this echo chamber. And you hear the same nonsense on this show where you can't even debate whether or not you can't even answer the question. You're not even brave enough. Not even man enough to say that Sandy Hook actually happened because you're scared that it's going to lose the argument.
We believe it happened. But he's
Okay, then you can believe that this guy was wrong. And he was wrong. Because this is my
Alex
last
Jones
point.
wasn't wrong. You don't know the particulars of the case, is
Okay,
what I'm saying.
yes, I do. I
don't
do.
know
I
the
do know the
particulars.
particulars. You may not
do
want me to
not.
know, but I know. But these are the
You
same
don't know.
Yahoos. The same Yahoos on this show say that CRT should be censored, but then they talk about freedom of speech when it comes to this guy making millions of dollars off this lie. Okay, it's ridiculous. He called these people to be harassed and put in harm's way.
It was not Alex Jones.
Man up, Stephen. He was wrong. Repeat after me. He was wrong.
All right.
Okay, he was wrong.
Committee.
He was asking. He said, "This is going around on the computer." He said, "Is this something? Is it?" He was asking the question. He never said it was. You don't know the particulars of this. They're going after him.
That's not true. That's not true.
Both.
That's not
and
true.
Marjorie Taylor Greene both said it was.
You wouldn't know the truth.
Why are you defending this guy? Why are you defending this guy?
I'm not defending him.
Are you being? I didn't take you as a coward, Stephen. Only a coward would defend this guy.
Step by step.
Is he paying you? Is he paying you?
No, he's not paying him. But maybe he's great in bed.
I saw this on the.
Okay, thank you. So if you look at this article by CNN.com, it's the 7 takeaways from the January 6th committee. From the 7 takeaways from the January 6th committee in Congress. And one takeaway is Cassidy Hutchinson, if you look at the screen, the former top aide to Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, provided testimony to the committee relaying anecdotes of Trump acknowledging he had lost the election. Also, it revealed new information from the Secret Service. While there's still questions surrounding the erased text messages, the panel obtained messages and emails showing that Secret Service receiving warnings before January 6, 2021 about the prospect of violence, as well as real-time reports of weapons in the crowd ahead of Trump's speech at the Ellipse. And then they found out that Trump planned to declare victory no matter what the election results were. And one person they said was noticeably absent from the hearing was Virginia Ginny Thomas. They ultimately interviewed her last month, and her testimony was not featured as part of the panel's last hearing before the midterm election. So based on those takeaways, let's start with Stephen. Based on those takeaways, do you think it was worth it and for us to have that investigation by the January 6th committee? And do you think that evidence is going to lead to the indictment of former President Trump?
Absolutely not. This is a kangaroo court that was not worth the money that they put into it. It's not bipartisan. It's Republicans who suck, who absolutely suck and only care about themselves and not the American people and not this country. None of this is anything that's positive for the country. And just because they indict somebody, stupid people who don't pay attention to what's going on in the world, they're going to say, "Oh my God, he's been indicted. He must have done something wrong." This is what they're doing. Everything out, because remember, I was there at the beginning saying we need to impeach Donald Trump when I was in there with Trump, when I was worried about him. I'm still worried about Donald Trump in a lot of ways. And I was saying we need to impeach him. We got to find a way to impeach him. We got to do this. And this is what January 6th committee is. It's all a bunch of crap. Everybody knows it's crap. We have all the evidence. And it's going to come out. And if anybody that ever watches this show or listens to any show, they're going to say, "Wow, Stephen, you were right this whole time. You were right this entire time." January 6th was a put on by the FBI and left-wing groups and it had nothing to do with real Trump people. There were a million people there at January.
Oh, his mic. Something happened with him. So
the FBI cut him off. The FBI cut him off. They finally got to him in his basement.
Okay, why is Stacy on Keith like this? Stacy is off. I think she's high. You're muted, Stacy.
I was saying, Keith, I wanted Keith to thank you. I wanted Keith to give his. Do you want me to repeat the questions, Keith?
Go ahead.
That's why I had Keith on. I thought he could hear me. I didn't realize I was muted. Keith, do you think that there was the 7 takeaways that we mentioned from the CNN.com article was proof that it was worth it, and that the evidence that they gathered will be used to indict former President Trump?
Well, I want to see what evidence they actually gathered, because there was no evidence gathered.
They just gave it. Stacey just read it.
No, unconstitutionally elected was the Electoral College, and it was here's an article by Mark Levin. I'm not going to read it.
Mark Levin? Oh my God!
And of course, that's my source. These guys, Aguna, I guarantee you, Aguna has no source. Todd has no source.
My source is the panel.
Can you just finish your statement, please?
Can I speak?
I've been putting them on mute, and obviously they take themselves off because I put people on mute. And as soon as I put them on mute, it doesn't stay. So this is crazy.
Law on the left. Anyway, no offense, Stacey, but anyway, again, unconstitutional.
No offense. I'm not on the left. What are you talking about?
Anyway, I won't. No comment.
Are you trying to say that you think I'm on the left because I am a Bush Republican?
No comment. I'm not going to comment on that. Anyway, I would talk to you in private about that. I won't say it publicly. I'm not going to say publicly, Stacey. I love you too much. Look at this. Okay, anyway.
That's Kanye West for you.
The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof direct, not the governor, not the commissioners, the voting and election commissioners of that state, of those key states. And that's what happened. They changed laws right in the midst. That's like changing the rules of a football game in the middle of the game. You know, you get a goal to go, third down.
Okay, I'm out of time.
The rules.
So,
okay, thank you. Go ahead, Aguna.
So what he's talking about is Pennsylvania. And it's interesting because he's been arguing this for the last couple of weeks, that somehow the governor of Pennsylvania changed the rules without the legislator, and somehow that constitutes that because he gave more time for people to vote, that the people who voted in that time were all Democrats, and somehow that little stipulation made Trump lose in Pennsylvania. Now, mind you, he lost in Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. Oh, by the way, in Arizona, Trump's own lawyers said they didn't have enough time. So they argued in Pennsylvania that he extended the voting deadlines or voting window. But in Arizona, they did the complete opposite. They didn't give enough time. So it's two different arguments that the same $250 million legal team that Trump hired made. And that's why they never submitted the evidence, because, if they submitted the evidence in the court for the Arizona, it contradicted what they did in Pennsylvania. Now, none of this is talking about what happened on January 6th. Look, as Americans, yes, we should look at that. And for Stephen to come on here and say that they weren't Trump supporters and they were all FBI agents, I didn't know we had all those FBI agents to run up there in the Capitol, and they didn't go through the gift shop, so they were trespassing. They didn't have the right to be there. Okay, yes, and you know what? Trump is not going to win in 2024. And any Yahoo on this show that thinks that he's a viable candidate just because somehow he deserves it, look, I look at my pocketbook like everybody else, and nobody on this show can articulate what Trump would do to save inflation. Nobody can articulate that because you don't talk about policies. You talk about it's a popularity contest, no substance. Please, can we have some substance?
Aguna, when's the last time that Stacey asked questions about the economy? Tell me that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So what's he going to do about the economy? What's he going to do?
Hey, dumb cousin Todd, you're on mute. Dumb.
No, I'm off of mute. But I was listening to Keith come for you. He said, when's the last time Stacey talked about policy? He's trying to get you. In other words, you're a Joe Biden supporter, and you're not a real Democrat. Real Republican. Because in his sick pea brain, you have to be a Trump supporter in order to be a real Republican. Okay, So now let's talk about the January 6th
You
committee.
got 5 seconds.
Of course I do. That shows you she's a Trump supporter. Now, all the evidence, which Keith and Stephen don't
No,
listen
really,
to,
you got
these
5
are
seconds.
Republicans who are telling
Goodbye,
on Trump.
Todd. Goodbye.
They're telling truth like Trump knew he lost because he said so to me. He said, "Can you believe that curse word Joe Biden beat me?" He said that to one of the aides.
So
And
Todd,
so-
you're going to add, will you add on to this, because this is our roundtable now, will you add on to this the deposition that former President Trump is going to do tomorrow?
Okay.
You got 5 seconds.
Oh, add that on and do it within 5 seconds. So anyway, all the evidence compiled against him shows that he knew he lost. And this was something that he was setting up even before the election. If you listen to Roger Stone planned it out.
Okay,
And
you said that last week. You're repeating yourself.
Exactly.
Make it quick.
I have to. Roger Stone planned this out, and there's clips of him saying that. All you have to do is say that you won. Possession is 3/10 of the law, or something like that.
9/10 of the law. Okay,
just
gotta
say
move
you
on.
won, and let them debate it. So
All right.
that's what Trump did. So now Trump is probably going to simply plead the fifth, that he says you only do if you're guilty. He's going to plead the fifth tomorrow all day long, just like he did before over 400 times. Yet, at the same time, this is the double talk. He said anybody that pleads the fifth is guilty. Only mobsters and guilty people plead the fifth. Then I'll do it 400 times. You've got to be sick to be a Trump supporter.
Okay,
Keith and Stephen, what is wrong with you? Stephen used to be halfway
Listen,
normal.
I'll tell you what's wrong with me. I'll tell you
Go
what's wrong
ahead.
with me.
You've been drinking the
We don't
Kool-Aid.
need Donald Trump. Donald Trump lit the spark that woke up America, not
Woke 'em up?
like woke. We are awake.
So
Donald
now
Trump
you're
lit the
woke.
spark.
Now
We're
you're
on
woke.
fire. And
I
this country's
thought-
on fire against
typical.
people like you and like Aguna and like Nas. We're against you. And we've
Why
come
you
together.
against
We're
you?
Americans.
And
I'm an
why?
American.
We don't need
Why?
Donald
You're
Trump.
That means-
against America? You don't love this country?
But the
We-
I
fire
love
is
this
burning
country. You
now,
don't love this
and you're
country.
going to lose. You can't cheat enough
Okay,
to
okay.
keep us out.
Stephen,
You can't do
Stephen.
everything you've been doing. We don't need Donald Trump. I'm not
I'm
a
the
Donald Trump
American
supporter.
dream.
I don't want Donald Trump to be president.
Stephen.
We don't need him. We have people that are
Stephen.
more capable than Donald Trump. So you're going to
Stephen.
lose. You're going to lose in 2022.
Stephen.
You're going to lose in 2024. And you're going to owe me an apology.
You don't
'cause
love this
all of
country?
y'all are wrong.
You don't love
Every
this
one of
country?
y'all are wrong.
Thank you.
I love
We're talking about
America.
policies that are destroying
I
this
love
country.
America.
Look
Am I
at the
wrong?
Democrat Party that Joe Biden is.
Why are you so red, man? You're redder than a
Everybody
red
on this
state.
show is in worse shape because shut up, Aguna. Because of what Joe Biden has done to us. So we're going to destroy you. You're not
Why
gonna
are you
steal
so
this
red?
election or the
Somebody
next
give him
election.
some water. Somebody give
stole the
Steven some
election.
water.
You kept Donald
Look at
Trump
this.
out. You're so scared of
I'm
Donald Trump.
screenshotting this.
Shut up, Aguna.
Keith, the constitutional conservative. Stephen, the independent thinker.
The red, hey, the man
And
in
my
red.
cousin Todd.
They're redder than a cherry.
I'm Stacey Johnson. Let's keep this conversation going. Check us out on Stephanie
I'm not
Stallworth's
sure
The
you
Flow
can get rid of
television network. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitch.
Oh
We're
my
on Instagram.
God.
Check our new Instagram page out and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. Live be here 7:30.
Yeah, everybody.
Good night.